The Asch experiment is one of psychology's oldest and most popular pieces of research. A volunteer is told that he's taking part in a visual perception test. What he doesn't know is that the other participants are actors, and he's the only person taking part in the real test, which is actually about group conformity.
Please begin. The experiment you will be taking part in today involves the perception of line length. Your task will be simply to look at the line here on the left and indicate which of the 3 lines on the right is equal to it in length. So, for example, if you...
The actors have been told to match the wrong lines. The volunteer will be monitored to see if he gives the correct answer or if he goes along with the opinion of the group and gives the wrong answer. In the first test, the correct answer is 2.
1.
1. 1.
It's 2.
1. Once again, the correct answer is 2.
3.
3.
3.
3.
3.
The Asch conformity experiment has been repeated many times. It's been suggested that, first, the distortion happens at the level of action. The subject believes the others are wrong, yet goes along with them anyway. Then it happens at the level of judgment. The subject begins to think, maybe they're seeing something I'm not seeing. And then it happens at the level of perception, which means that the subject's actual perception of what's right or wrong is distorted by the majority. Now, when you link these conclusions to what's happening in the world today, you have to ask, in what way have we been using the influence of society? Which is probably the most powerful force in human psychology.
Over 40 years ago, I was cloning stem cells, and one of the first experiments just so blew my mind that it really changed the whole course of my education and my life. I put one stem cell in a culture dish all by itself, and that stem cell divides every 10 to 12 hours. After about a week to 10 days, I have thousands of cells in the petri dish, but what's most important is all these cells are genetically identical to each other. And then what I did, and this is the experiment, I separated a culture of genetically identical cells into 3 different petri dishes, and I changed the environment. But the culture medium to cells is like the world that we live in. It's got the air, the water, the food, all the things in it. So I had 3 different environments, yet genetically identical cells in each dish, and the results revealed that in environment A, the cells form muscle, in environment B, the cells form bone, and in environment C, the cells form fat cells. What was so profoundly important about this is if you ask the question, what is responsible for controlling the fate of the cells? What the experiment clearly revealed was that all the cells were genetically identical. The only thing that was different from one dish to the other dish was the environment. So while at the time I was teaching medical students the conventional story out of the textbook, the concept of genetic determinism, that genes control our fate and our lives, my experiments revealed a completely different story, and that was, it was the environment that was primarily responsible in shaping the behavior and genetics.
And there's new research out of Harvard Medical School about social contagion. And I think it's kind of obvious and intuitive that you catch the moods of people around you, but now they're finding that people get fat in groups, they get happy in groups, they quit smoking in groups.
Nicholas Christakis and I have been very fortunate to find a resource in the Framingham Heart Study that we never imagined we could find. They were asking people for 32 years, who are your family members? Where do you work? Where do you live? And most importantly, who are your friends? For the first time, now that we have data like this, we are able to get a bird's eye view of networks like the networks that you live in.
We had some validated measures of various emotions, including happiness. And what we attempted to show, and were able to show, is that my happiness depends not just on my own actions and thoughts and behaviors, but also on the actions and thoughts and behaviors of the people to whom I'm directly connected, my friends, siblings, spouses, neighbors, coworkers, and so forth, and the people to whom they are connected, and the people even to whom they are connected.
And what this finding is showing us is that it's not just behaviors that are spreading through networks, it's also these emotional states that are spreading through networks. So we think that what's spreading is this tendency to transmit ideas, these norms of behavior.
You are, in fact, a social organism. You're created by your environment. There's no you and there's no me. Once you begin to think about how everything you do has been taught to you one way or another, granted, you're putting things together and you're making decisions, but your decisions are limited to the information that's been given to you and that you've learned. So I'm a walking amalgam of a social engineering, so to speak. If I see myself as separate from everything else, that I could say is incorrect. For example, everyone knows they have to breathe. Through time, people will begin to understand that their integrity is only as good as the integrity of everything else around them.
So what is happening in science is really quite pathetic, and what is happening in the public at large is also equally pathetic, because what is happening is that by pretending to be something, we are becoming that something. By pretending to be something, we are becoming that something.
I began to feel that I was losing my identity, that the person that I call Clay, the person who put me in this place, the person who volunteered to go into this prison, because it was a prison to me, it still is a prison to me. I don't look on it as an experiment or a simulation. It's just a prison that was run by psychologists instead of run by the state.
In 1971, today's well-known psychologist, Philip Zimbardo, decided to examine what would happen if you take perfectly normal and healthy young students and create a prison-like environment within Stanford University and tell them, for the next 2 weeks, some of you will act as prisoners, and some of you will act as guards. One day into the experiment, a riot broke out. The guards began humiliating the prisoners. They used physical punishments. Some became extremely sadistic. The prisoners began to have emotional breakdowns. Some had to be removed from the study early, and after only 6 days, the experiment had to be completely shut down.
I had really thought that I was incapable of this kind of behavior. I was surprised, even I was dismayed to find out that I could really be that I could act in a manner so absolutely unaccustomed to anything I would even really dream of doing. And while I was doing it, I didn't feel any regret. I didn't feel any guilt. It was only afterwards when I began to reflect on what I had done that this behavior began to dawn on me, and I realized that this was a part of me I hadn't really noticed before.
By pretending to be something, we are becoming that something. By pretending that we are mindless matter, we are just material and that's it, we are excluding the finer aspects of life. We are excluding the finer aspects of our experience. And this is very serious business.